everyone, welcome to another edition of The Russell Show. My name is Russell Brooks. Now, a few months ago, I had the chance to feature best-selling author J.A. Conrad, followed recently by best-selling Canadian author Cherish D'Angelo on this show. Now, guess what? This week I'm going to feature another best-selling author, and he's no one else other than former CIA operative Barry Eisler, who is the author of the excellent thriller Fault Line, followed up recently this summer by the sequel Inside Out, both published by Ballantine Books. Now, a little bit about Fault Line. Fault Line is a story of two estranged brothers, Ben and Alex Trevin. Now, Alex Trevin, he's a patent lawyer, and Ben is a black ops soldier working for the U.S. government. Now, in this story here, Alex calls on the help of his brother Ben when he believes that he's going to be the next target of a brutal assassination attempt after one of his clients, an eccentric inventor of a very powerful encryption technology, is murdered. Apparently, the cover story is that it was a drug deal gone bad or something else like that. But Alex doesn't believe that one bit. Now, along for the ride is Alex's colleague, Sarah Husseini, someone who Ben immediately distrusts. So, in the following scene I'm going to recite to you, actually what Barry wanted me to recite to you, is a scene involving Ben and Sarah at a restaurant called Vesuvio in San Francisco. So, without further ado, sit back and enjoy. She had just turned left onto Columbus, thinking maybe she'd grab a bite at Cafe Prague before finding a Walgreens or something else open at night where she could pick up a change of underwear and a few other items. When suddenly someone called her name. She looked around, seeing no one. A bus went by. Had she imagined it? Then she heard it again. She looked up and saw Ben in the second-story window of Vesuvio. "Come on over," he called. She felt an odd burst of pleasure that she couldn't quite place, excitement, relief, and she crossed the street. She went inside and immediately she loved it. She supposed it was weird that she lived in San Francisco and had never been inside Vesuvio. Then again, she'd never been inside Alcatraz either. It was one of those places well known to tourists. You figured would always be there and you'd get to it eventually. Not that she'd been in too much of a hurry. In her imagination, the place was more of a beat museum than a real bar someone might want to go to for a drink. But the atmosphere struck her immediately as authentic, and she was glad she'd been wrong. She went up to the second floor and walked alongside the balcony, overlooking the bar below. The ceiling was close overhead, maybe 7 feet, and painted dark brown or black. There was some light from the street, but other than that, it was so dim she found herself squinting. A few indistinct groups were talking and laughing around tables and booths. She made out Ben's shape against the window, silhouetted by the neon sign of the Tosca Cafe across the street. He was sitting away from his table, his feet planted on the floor. There was something about him that always seemed, ready. For what? She just wasn't sure. "What are you doing here?" he asked as she approached. She stopped in front of the table, but she didn't sit down. "I wanted to talk to you." He nodded and looked out at the street, then back at her. "Do you have a problem with me putting my hands on you?" he asked quietly. She shook her head, thinking she had misunderstood. "What?" "I'm not going to be comfortable sitting here with you unless I pat you down. Sorry, that's the way it's going to be." She didn't know what to make of it. Was he serious? As she stood there trying to take it all in, he got up and stepped close to her. He leaned in close, and she realized this was for the benefit of anyone who might be watching, to obscure what he was really doing. She caught a whiff of the hotel soap. Something else underneath it, something masculine she just couldn't otherwise place. He felt his left hand move inside her coat and slide up her right side. The palm of his hand firm against her kidney, her ribs, the edge of her breasts. Then his right hand was doing the same thing on the other side. He pulled her against him and ran his hands lightly across the small of her back and over her hips. She felt her heart beating fast and told herself it was because she was angry. He took a step back, glanced around the bar, then knelt in front of her and quickly ran his hands up her legs, ankle to groin. She heard her breath moving forcefully in and out of her nose. She stood and looked at her. She glared back. Satisfied? She asked. He nodded and sat, with no indication that she should do the same. Oh, the insolence of it, and her failure to do anything effective in response other than a single lame word of sarcasm made her so angry she imagined herself picking up a chair and swinging it at him like a baseball bat. Stand up, she said. What? I said stand up, she said again. He did. She stepped in close and looked into his eyes. You better both be careful. No? She slipped her hands inside his blazer and ran them slowly up his sides. Oh, she can feel the warmth of his skin through his shirt, the muscles underneath. She never took her eyes off of him. He wanted to play it mocking and innocently. She could play it the same way too. She knelt in front of him and touched him the same clinical ease and the same sense of entitlement that he had used on her. Then she stood, put a hand on his stomach. Ooh, it was hard and it was flat. She could feel it expanding and contracting slightly with his breathing. I guess you're unarmed, she said, still looking into his eyes. He put his hand over hers and started pushing it lower and lower and lower. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. What was he doing? One-upping her? But she wasn't going to blink first. Even lower. Her heart was pounding. But she wouldn't look away. Her hand stopped at a hard protuberance just above his groin. Oh my gosh, she realized what it was. It was a gun. In some kind of special concealed holster. Oh God. Maybe I can trust you after all, he said. She glared at him. Why? Because nobody with even the most rudimentary training would have done such a lame-ass pat-down like you did. Maybe you're a lawyer after all. Yeah, and maybe you're an asshole after all. Yeah, I am. And I'm a lot more than that, too. His hand was still covering hers. She pulled it away and sat down. After a moment, he joined her. So, what did you want to talk about after all? So there you have it, everyone. Tune in next week where I'll continue the Barry Eisler Spotlight with excerpts and also a book review of his latest novel, Inside Out. Also available right now from Ballantine Books. So, until next time, be safe and stay healthy. Good night, everyone.